I'm back with another solo pod, and today we're going to talk about why I quit my job to build a company. We're going to talk about emotionally what I was going through, financially what I was going through, what it was like to actually have these conversations with my manager, with my friends, with my family, and most importantly, how did I even figure out what company I wanted to start? That was arguably way harder than I could have ever imagined in this journey. I actually genuinely thought that starting a company, the hardest part was really financially. And once you really get your foot in the door and once you kind of take it off and get off the ground, like everything works out, everything is easy and fine and chill, and it could not be farther from the truth. Like it actually gets harder and harder, but the hardest part is really just not being prepared for it. So that's really what I want to do today. I want to walk you through the day-to-day and actually what it's like to make good decisions through this process, because I made a lot of bad decisions. So if you're my mom, if you're my boyfriend, if you're my best friend, turn it off because it's about to get so deep, so vulnerable. I don't know if you're ready for this, but I'm here to tell you the truth and tell you the real hard shit behind this process so that you can feel even a little bit more confident in taking the leap and pursuing something that you're actually really excited about on a day-to-day basis. I have talked about this story several times, but to shed a little bit of light, a little bit of context, when I graduated college, I started a full-time job as a product manager. It was truly the dream job. I was getting paid six figures. I literally had the big tech perks that we all talk about. I had a ton of ownership and creativity and autonomy in my role as a product manager, which I definitely think is rare for new grads and entry-level roles. I had a bunch of other young women on my team and people I could actually genuinely be friends with, which is rare in tech. Two of my best friends were people I met as other new product managers who similarly were early in their PM journey at the company. I literally have my fondest memories, but for some reason, I kind of felt pretty unsettled internally the entire time I was there, and I couldn't really tap my finger into what it was until it came to my promotion. It was time for me to get promoted, and what I had to go through to get the promotion that I rightfully deserved, I put in 2 years at this company. As an associate product manager, I joined as part of their rotational program. So this is basically like a 2-year training program. You rotate across different teams, you learn the different parts of product management, and after 2 years of being in that program, you get promoted to be a product manager. It didn't happen like that. It did not happen like that at all. They were like, sure, we'll promote you, but why? And that kind of started this whole journey of me understanding how corporate promotions work. It is so much less about the work that you actually do and what you deserve, and it's so much more about how you vocalize and present yourself and what you've accomplished. It is literally boils down to a document that you create and hand off to the leadership team to prove your competence and your value at the company. If you do not make that and do that well, good luck, you're never getting promoted. Doesn't really matter how much you've done for the company. And I think that was something that was very much not taught to me at any point in my life. It didn't have any context on this, so it really took me by shock. And what I had to do to make this promo work for me was ridiculous. I feel like I spent an upwards of maybe 40 or 50 hours trying to collect all the information, trying to set up the framing of it, trying to show that, hey, I actually did a lot of things in these past 2 years, trying to show that I deserve this role. It just felt ridiculous. And I started to contemplate why I was there and why my entire worth at this company was being boiled down to a piece of paper. Many projects that I'd spent so many months on that the company had probably spent millions of dollars, because when I work on a project, it is not just my salary that the company is expensing, but I have a team of 15 engineers who work on the features that I spec out. So just multiply all of their salaries, and many of these projects never got executed. Some random day, a leadership would come and change the whole strategy or priority, and then it would get scrapped and we would start over again. If I were to leave tomorrow, if I were to literally get hit by a car tomorrow, nothing would happen to the company. It wouldn't even go down $1 in revenue if I left tomorrow. And I started to feel purposeless and I started to feel like my existence was useless to society. Yeah, I was getting paid a lot of money. Yeah, I lived in a nice apartment and I could go to like nice restaurants. But it's like, is that what I wanted? Like, is that the whole point of like the 20 years of me going to school? Like, it started to feel like really ridiculous. And at some point, like just the day-to-day act of like waking up every single day and having an opinion about B2B, enterprise, SaaS for infrastructure, and all these like fancy like software tech buzzwords that, I don't know, it was boring. It was very boring and it was very unfulfilling. And every single day coming to work felt harder and harder and harder. Like I literally felt like I was losing myself. And every single day, like I would sink into a deeper depression and find it more and more difficult to exist. And I know I'm being dramatic, but I literally felt like in the moment that like nothing in my life had any meaning. And I was my body was going in a panic state. And so I tried to find meaning. And the best place that I could find it was like in like 2 years, I would have to make up another document about why I should get promoted from PM to senior PM. And then another 2 years after that, probably group product manager. And then another 2 years after that, director of product manager. Then another 2 years, some other random title they would just, like, what was I going to just do this to my grave? Like, just be like some random version of a product manager, same responsibilities, still no impact, still no meaning. At the end of the day, unless you're like at the top leadership of a company, you are so irreplaceable. And like, you are not actually creating impact in the world and like actually helping people. And I don't think that like, you are a bad person if you are not doing some like life-changing thing for the world. But like I wanted that. I wanted to hold myself to a big standard. That was what I wanted from my life. And I believed I could do that. And I didn't think that staying at the company was where I was going to be able to unlock my potential. And the second thing, the biggest thing that I realized was like I literally had the best job. Like work-life balance was real. My coworkers were like so kind, so fun. I got paid so much money. I loved the culture. The product was actually interesting to me. I know I said like before, I was like B2B, blah, blah, blah. But like I was still in the tech industry and excited about it. And I realized that going to another company was not going to solve my problem. So that's kind of when I realized like I needed to create a life for myself that not just made money, but also had the type of impact I wanted to make in the world that genuinely fulfilled me and gave me meaning, because I could not sit here in my bed for 6 hours every day, like crying about myself and how I have no purpose. So we had to do something about it. I think at that time I was like doing Genshi on the side, like part-time, mostly in a nonprofit capacity, like very much in a volunteer sense, like not actually, didn't really see it as a company. I kind of had this like perspective where all social impact things like had to be nonprofit, and nonprofits don't make money. Like they basically rarely do, and they're like literally built to operate without a profit. And so there's very little incentive, and I'm not very excited about doing that, because it's less about the fact that like I need to be rich. Like I had money and I knew what it was like to be rich, and it doesn't really give you happiness. And when you're not rich, like you don't have resources. Like it's that simple. If you don't have money, you can't create like large scale impact. Like money creates impact. I don't care what people say, but if you have money, you have more resources and you can do more for the world. Like I couldn't think of anything for me. Like what I was specifically passionate about and what I wanted to do for the world was really help break down the barriers to education about tech, about careers, about money, specifically for women. Like that's what I really cared about. Like I was literally putting in like 5-6 hours a week outside of my job to build Genshi for no other incentive other than like I cared about it. And like I just didn't think I was going to find any other passion outside of that. I was literally proving that was the number one thing I cared about. And the reality of the situation is like you cannot build a business unless you're super, super, super passionate about it. Like it's so hard. I'm about to tell you like all the things that it took for me to like build Genshi where it is today. It's so dark and like ridiculous and emotionally just like traumatizing. Like you are not going to be able to get through that unless like do or die you want to build it, and like it's everything it's everything for you. So I quit. So I quit my job. I was like, okay, we got to start like solving this situation. Like we're not going in the right direction. But I think I want to share like a little story which talks about like how I actually quit, because it's really easy for me to like show up in this video and be like, and then I quit. Like I just put in my notice and tomorrow I was out, because like that is not true. It was actually a 5-month process. Let's talk about kind of the moment when I knew. The moment that I knew I wanted to quit, like I didn't go tell anyone, because it's like really important that no one knows that you're ready to quit until the very moment when you're ready to leave. And that for me took a while, because first I wanted to like sell a lot of my stock to make sure that I had like a solid savings account and runway and backup. When you join a big tech company, like half of your compensation actually comes in the form of stock. Like it doesn't come in the form of cash. The second thing is I wanted to have my stocks vest. And so there's this concept called vesting where, let's say you sign an offer and they say, here, we're going to give you $100,000 of stock, for example, but you have to stay X amount of years to actually get that stock. So like portions of it vest. So I wanted some of it to vest before I quit. Another thing I did was I actually requested for sabbatical, for 3 months sabbatical. I thought, hey, in the 0.1% chance that I want to come back, that I changed my mind, that I literally was delusional and like off my like rocker and like literally gone crazy, if I take a sabbatical, I have the opportunity to come back. One thing's for sure, do not ask for a sabbatical with the intention of leaving like I did, until you're super confident that if they reject the sabbatical, you will still leave. Like I was ready to still walk away if they rejected my request. So I went up to my manager and I said, hey, like I'm not gonna lie to you. I feel really mentally checked out. I feel very burnt out. I feel not here and I am not able to bring myself to work every day. I think I need 3 months off to figure my shit out. Like mental health, like that is a real thing. Would you be able to give me this time off? Specifically, I've put in a lot of years at this company. Would you allow me to have this time off while you pay me? Because the reality situation is I have this mental health issue because literally the company. So like, it feels like this is something that I deserve. And I didn't say it exactly like that. I said it more like the beginning, which is like, I feel emotionally unwell and mentally checked out and I need some like mental health time and I would like a paid sabbatical is basically what I said. It was pretty obvious that I was like likely to quit, but I was not saying that I was resigning. I was rather asking for time. And I feel like the way these companies operate is like the cost to pay you for their sabbatical is way less and it's going to be the cost to replace you. And so this, even with the like 1% chance that I was going to come back, and I literally said there's 1% chance I will come back, it's worth it for the company, literally in terms of money. I know this sounds crazy because you're like, I can't even get like a $20,000 promotion and like they're willing to do that. Literally, yes. Literally, yes. So she said, yes, totally no problem. Like that works. So for 3 months, I did not work at this company. I still got a paycheck and I started to ideate and think about what is this company I wanted to build so I could really feel what it was like to some extent building and if this was truly what I wanted to do. And then I could come back and like still work at the company if like I just that 1% chance I decided. 3 months, I worked really, really hard. I built multiple MVPs. I tested a bunch of ideas. I actually had paying customers. I was really excited more excited than ever before. I was like, obviously I'm quitting. Like I have traction. This is working. I know exactly what I want to build. I know what I'm passionate about. And I came back after 3 months and I put my 2-week notice. And the funny thing is when I like literally returned back, my team was different. My manager was different. Like it felt like the entire company had changed and they didn't even create any documentation to help onboard me when I like came back. I mean, they literally knew I was leaving and they still were like so gracious and so kind and still gave me that sabbatical and paid me for it because this is like what they do at big companies. Like they don't care. They make billions of dollars. Like what is like a couple paychecks to them? So I gave my 2-week notice and they were like, all right, see ya. It was great having you. It was like hilarious the way I exited. But I'm still like good friends with my coworkers, by the way. Like I left on such great terms. Why? Because I was super transparent the whole time about how I was emotionally feeling. And I didn't like wishy-washy like go about it. I just asked for what I wanted and I was like very transactional about it. Like I think at the end of the day, like corporations want you to just like, they're like, it started transactional, like let's end it transactional. Like it was always transactional. Like they don't want to play all these like mind games with you. And so anyways, now think about it. I'm about to start my entrepreneurial journey. I have 3 months of pay. I have set myself up for success by creating a high yield savings account and put a bunch of my stock in there as like a backup. On top of that, I made like multiple years of like pretty high 6-figure salary that like I didn't spend all of it. The biggest reason why is like you want the like mental headspace of I'm okay and like I have time. Because if you put yourself in a mental headspace of like stress, like I need money, I need this faster, like you really clog your brain and like you really suppress the creativity juices you need to like build something extraordinary and like to think outside of the box, which is like really important when you're building a business. So that was like the number one thing I did correctly was like I set myself up for financial success so like I could take the time and I could have the mental space I needed to actually build something. And it's funny is I kind of accidentally did that because I was like almost over preparing, but little did I know what was about to happen next. Like little did I know. Anyway, so I quit my job. I'm on a high. I'm like, I love my life. I live in New York City. I'm like a business owner now. Like I'm a founder. Like all the like, I'm in my honeymoon phase. That's the other things you realize is when you start a company, like the first like 3-4 months, absolute honeymoon phase. You think you're the shit. Everyone is like in awe that you quit and it's like so bold. You're starting a company. Like you must be so smart. You must have like a whole plan together. Like when you're like just starting out, like no one doubts you. It's only like after multiple months of failing do people start doubting you, right? So like I'm in my honeymoon phase. I'm feeling great. I go to investors and I raise a bunch of money. I'm like, I built this product. Look how many customers I have, how was all this traction, whatever. So I go to investors, I'm like, I need money, like I need to build a team, I need to go, like we got shit to do, we got work to do. Okay, so it doesn't really work like that, obviously. I didn't have a network at this point, right? Like I'm literally first time founder, like never done this before. I think I sent like literally 3,000 emails. I actually have this like proof point, like I sent them through these like automatic sales softwares. So I collected 3,000 emails, sent out this email. I think a couple hundred responded back and I think like 90% were said like we're not interested, and then I ended up taking like maybe like 20-30 calls and I ended up getting like a few checks out of that. Like it was so traumatizing, this experience. Like I think it was worse than like any job search I have done because something about the fact that like you're doing job interviews to get a job, like it doesn't feel personal. But when an investor says like I don't believe in you and I think your company is dumb and I don't want to give you money and take a bet on you, like it feels so much of a personal attack. Like I just like couldn't handle it. Like I think I just like stabbed my ego. And as someone who, I'm going to sit here and be a little like cocky for a second, I've gotten everything I've ever wanted. Like I got my dream job, I got my dream college. Like I really had, so it's like the first time I'm feeling like actual real rejection after trying really hard. And I did successfully raise money at the end of it, but like it came at such a high emotional cost. Like by the time I got it, I think I was just like, I don't know, I was just in a very like negative state at this point, and I had just started my journey. Anyway, so like we have this money, like I hire my first employee, we get to building. 1 month in, we ship the first version of the product. 2 months in, we onboard first 4,000 users. And then, I don't know, like I just felt, my heart sank. I don't know how to explain it, but like I had all these customers, they were paying money, like the app was growing, it was successful, and you would think that like this is like a founder's dream. Like I raised money and I like successfully got something off the ground, but it was not what I wanted to do. Like I did not feel better. I was feeling exactly the same place I was a year ago, which I was feeling burnt out, exhausted. And I didn't feel like the product I was building actually solved the problem I wanted to see in the world. And it did not feel like it was getting me to a place of freedom that I was searching for. I think at that time, I wasn't mature enough to realize that I was actually searching for freedom. When you have investors that have given you money, they have a lot of expectations and they constantly email you, what are you doing with my money, and grow faster. And it was just a lot of pressure. I'm literally a few months in and I just felt so much pressure. I felt like I had, instead of having one boss before, now I had like 10 bosses who were like literally breathing down my back. And it's not like a boss telling you, hey, can you do the work that like you signed up to do through the job description that like you can probably do half in your sleep. But hey, can you like create like millions of dollars in revenue? You've never done this before. Like you don't have any resources, and also do something that no other company has existed and like do it faster. That is the pressure I felt. That is the pressure that all founders feel from their investors. So I do what any, I guess, crazy person does, because this is what I do. I returned all the money to my investors. I killed the app, and I went to Japan for a month. But What was really, really special and amazing about that month in Japan was not that like I came to some profound realization of like what I wanted to do, but I rested. I rested for the first time in like maybe 7 years since I was a junior in high school. So I came back from Japan. Now I have no investor money, I have no employees, and I have no product and company. So I'm like, I think it's time to leave New York City because I'm paying just a ton of money to live there, but I'm not actually living there because I'm traveling around trying to discover myself. And we don't really got any money to waste now because now we're tapping into the savings account. Like, we are not going to do investor money, and I'm still going to build this business because that feels right to me. I don't know what business I'm going to build, but I'm going to have to build it myself with my own money because I clearly cannot take investor money because I clearly cannot handle it. Like, I cannot handle the pressure. So I got rid of my apartment in New York, which was actually like arguably I think the hardest part of this journey because, dude, I was obsessed with New York. Like, I literally was like, I dreamt of living in New York, like basically my entire life. Like, since I was a little girl, like that was a dream. Like, I wanted to be like a New York girly. And it really felt like my experience there was short-lived. I ended up being there for 2 years, but like I had this dream that I was gonna like live there till my early 30s. And I was gonna like live I was like, gonna become a New Yorker. And it takes so much to get to New York and to get an apartment. Like, I'm sure you've seen like several TikToks about this of people who literally like drop like 10 grand on like a tiny closet. And so I left New York. So now not only do I not have no job, but I have no home now. And in order to leave New York, like cross country, I also had to sell all my things because it was coming to be way too expensive to bring all my shit back to California, to my parents' house. Like, it was not worth the money, and I didn't have the money to spend time. So I also sold everything. Like, I'm telling you, all my clothes, all my furniture, all these little trinket items I'd saved up, all my electronics, I literally sold every little thing. Anything that did not fit into one suitcase was gone. So I came back to the Bay Area at this point, and I decided to sublease some space in SF. And I started hanging out with some startup founders at this co-working space that I'm in right now. I wasn't sure why I was hanging out with them, but it's not like I had anything else planned for me. Like, I was like, okay, well, I like talking about tech and I like being around other founders because it's inspiring. So like, this feels like the right place to hang out. And I started like hanging out there. So I'm hanging out with these people, and I started to become like friends with like the team here. For context, like, you can't just like hang out here. Like, you have to be a founder that they've invested in. So the fact that I'm literally hanging out here is like already unheard of. Like, I'm basically like finessing my way in, and mostly because I'm like good friends with the team here. And we're hanging out one day, and they're like, hey, like, why don't you just start a podcast? You have a lot of things to say. You already make content, and you are really passionate about Gen Z in this community. Like, just start making podcast episodes, start like talking. And they're like, by the way, like, you can use the studio, this one that I'm in right now, like for free, like, don't worry about it. And at a time when you have like no resources and anything seems interesting to you, and you don't have to like put a lot of upfront resources, you just like jump and do it. At least I was really open-minded at this point. Like, I was like, I don't really know what I'm doing. And I started basically like making episodes, and it like took off, and like, that's kind of what brought me here. And when I was like making the podcast and creating content, people are really resonating with it. I started to get a lot of inbound from brands that are like, we want to pay you for this because you have a really niche, important audience that's worth a lot of money. And that's when everything clicked, was like, I can truly fulfill my passion of like education and resources and like context for young women in tech and entrepreneurship, and still financially support myself and still scale and grow without charging you guys for it. And I'm so, so, so grateful because I feel like I've just built this like incredible community that I feel so connected to. And I wake up every day like jumping out of bed. Like, I'm so excited. And what I'm about to say is probably going to shock you, but like, I still don't really make money, you guys. And I'm still not making anywhere near what I used to make in tech. But like, I am so, so confident that if I keep consistently doing what I really deeply care about and doing it passionately, like, I'm going to work really hard. I'm going to work harder than anyone else. And I'm definitely going to make money here. And I'm definitely going to make it like a lot more than I did. Because if I was not in the financial situation that I am in now, where I feel financially secure, I have my savings, it came from like really setting myself up for success, can I say no to these brand deals? If you do not set yourself up for success, you have to take the brand deal that doesn't resonate with you. But I know this sounds ridiculous, but like, if I did like 10 of these brand deals and let's say I hit 6 figures at like I did in my old job, sure, like great. Like in some ways I made some money, but all that time doing those brand deals is taken away from just focusing on growth. And then at the end of the year, I'm probably going to be much smaller than if I focused 100% of my energy into fully building and growing and thinking about strategy. But it's really, really gotten me to like a point where I understand now the power of building an audience. If you build an audience and you monetize off that audience through content, yes, you're an influencer. But if you build an audience first and then build multiple streams of revenue across multiple businesses off that audience, you become much more powerful than a tech founder. But I just want you guys to understand that at the end of the day, this journey is like really, really tough. Took a lot of like ups and downs and turns and like a lot of honestly financial risk. Like it's been a year and several months now where I have not taken a single paycheck. So the savings account is dwindling and I don't have infinite time, and it definitely is getting more and more urgent that I make money, but I definitely have a really good plan and I'm getting closer and closer to that every single day. I'm confident I'm going to get there, and honestly, I'm just so excited for you guys to see what it is. As usual, if any of this was interesting to you and you have more questions, please don't hesitate to DM me on Instagram and ask me to follow up. Like, I'm really here for you guys, and I really want to demystify this process to encourage and empower more young women to take more of these financial risks. Because with great risk comes great rewards, and we can potentially create a system for ourselves that actually works and gives us the autonomy, the impact that we're looking for in our lives without sacrificing the money that we make and our freedom in that process. So thanks for listening, and I'm excited for next week's episode. Bye, guys.